Well, there were two guys who were early influences, kind of mentors. One was my high school art teacher who said, well, you know, you're pretty good, but you don't work hard enough. And Sterling, who said, you know, if it's not fun, you're not doing it right. I was at International Boiler, really, with him for a year right out of high school. Then I went in the military. Got out, moved to New York, went to college, got married, et cetera, et cetera. Came back, and I painted and painted and painted, and finally, you know, I got into a gallery, and then another gallery, and then a couple more galleries, and all of a sudden I said, wait a minute, I got a job here. And it can change the way you look at your work that you're doing. And I always had in the back of my mind, if you're having a problem with something, remember what Sterling said, if it's not fun, you're not doing it right. So you have to work at making it fun in a challenging sense, and I think, you know, I've figured out how to do that. And he was always around. I liked his work. I liked him as a man. I think he was a heck of a nice person. He was just somebody I knew basically most of my life. My daughter was 4 years old, and my wife was out somewhere and ran into Sterling and Dorothy, and my daughter had this little blonde ponytail. Sterling looked at that ponytail and he said, I really like to paint little girls with ponytails. So he made it a date for my wife and daughter to go over to his place, and my wife said, he's, you know, did his usual thing. He had his masonite and spread this stuff out on the floor, and he's mixing paint, and he's going to town on the painting, and my daughter's just hanging out, you know, and he's having a good time with it. He said, well, if this turns out good, you know, I'll let you have it. And the painting got better and better, and he was really happy with it. And to this day, I don't know where that painting is. So it's out there floating around someplace. And I looked through the show to see if maybe it was here, but I didn't see it. So I think maybe it turned out too well, and it never came my way, which didn't really bother me. I just thought it was always kind of a funny story. That's the way Sterling was, and he had a real sense of humor. I did a painting of Bushkill Falls one time. It was a good-sized vertical painting. I had it in a local show somewhere, and Sterling came in and looked at it and said, oh boy, a rocket launching. And I thought, that's just the kind of sense of humor that he had. He was always encouraging and friendly and very well known. But I didn't really think about that at the time. He was just Sterling, and he's somebody I'd known for a long time. I liked the way he worked. He was encouraging to me. He was a nice guy. And it wasn't until, you know, years later that I realized how really accomplished this guy was and how well known he was. I knew he brought, you know, a lot of primitive artists along who wouldn't have gotten the attention except for him, which is terrific. And he was just that kind of guy. He was just, when you talk to him, he's just a regular friend, but extremely gifted and really well known. Compared to the way I work, Sterling worked fast. You know, my work's a lot more slow and deliberate and layered, kind of. His work was thicker and faster. And we're all different, but we're all kind of related to each other because we're artists, but everybody's got their own signature style and their own method of working, and interesting bunch to watch. If I'd have shows locally, Sterling would show up, and he was very interested and encouraging. And I thought, you know, there are times when you're happy to have somebody who's interested and encouraging, and he was. And he was just a really nice person. And he seemed to like what I was doing. So that didn't hurt. You know, when I think of Savitsky and McCarthy and some of these other people who wouldn't have gotten the attention they got except for Sterling, and I thought that's a selfless, really outgoing thing to do. But that's the kind of guy he was. I think Sterling was happy that he was the kind of guy who had a really good time painting. And I think that was his main goal. And because he had so much fun doing it, I think he was good at it. And he was good at it in a unique way. I mean, Sterling had his own signature style, which you can't mistake for anybody else, and he just kept doing it. I kind of got the impression he said, I don't care what other people are doing, I'm going to do this. And I think that's admirable. I just know that I was always happy to run into Sterling around town. He'd want to know what I was up to. I'd want to know what he was up to. And it's just, you know, on a real friendly, kind of common footing, because we both, although we're both very different, you know, we were both making some kind of a mark on a flat thing with four corners. He was just always there. I'm kind of sorry he's not there anymore. I saw some of these darker pieces really interested me, and that's intuitive also, I guess. I'd seen lots of the florals and portraits and pictures of his cat Jasper, who, but these dark ones have a different appeal for me somehow. I got the impression that Sterling was strongly invested in what he was painting emotionally. He had too much fun doing it not to have been deeply involved in it emotionally, I think. And I think that's a good way to be. If you're not, as Sterling would say, maybe you're doing it wrong. Just to reiterate that I think he was a terrific guy. He was a great artist, but he's a really decent human being. And he was easy to be around. He was humble, but really skilled. And he's missed.